This is an original, a DJI Mavic Mini. It's the first one. It's got a problem. Belongs to my mate Jeff. Do anything for my mate Jeff because he's a good mate. It's got an error 30210, I think it was, which is an ESC fault, which is a very, very common fault that they've all got. Well, not all of them, obviously. The ones that are working don't have it. I'm going into this completely blind. I've got my suspicions. Obviously it's the ESC, but I've got my suspicions that it's just maybe a bit of liquid damage or condensation damage sort of thing. I'm not saying it's been in water or anything, but I'm going to have a look. I'm going to take it apart. I've got no instruction videos, so I'm just going to take shitloads of screws out, put it all back together, and then have shitloads of screws left. Because it's always over-engineered, isn't it? So I've just plugged it in, done all the updates. Well, I know there was an update to the app, not the actual Mavic Mini. And as you can see, it says power system error. So what the error is, I don't know. All I know is it's something to do with the ESC. So just to confirm it, I've done that. I've now got to take the thing apart somehow. If you're going to take these plastics off, please bear in mind that it's not very easy. I couldn't do it on the table, I had to lean it on my leg. Shit. Right, there's no detached cables or anything like that. I mean, it could be a motor, I presume. I don't fully know. There's not really enough details on there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to undo those two screws, that screw there that holds all the GPS on. That's got glue on it, which isn't going to pull off, so I'm going to have to heat that up. Take that ribbon cable off, and then we can get the ESC out and look at the underside. One minute. I had to heat this glue up. I don't know what it is. It's not hot glue. It's definitely not hot glue. It's like a It's like an epoxy sort of glue. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to spend a few days cleaning all this shit up and getting rid of all the flux, and then I can see what's what. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the battery in. I'm going to see if anything actually works. There's no other physical connection apart from that one connector there, so it might be knackered on the main board, I don't know, but I'm going to plug the battery and I'm going to see if it works. I've dismantled everything, I've flashed all the firmware independently, still the same error. So what I'm going to do now is put the motors back on, because I don't know if it actually tests the resistance of the motors. I've checked the motors, they're 100% fine. So I'm going to put it all back together. I'm going to solder the motors back on. I'm going to try it again to see if what I've done is working. If that doesn't work, I'm going to dismantle it all again. I'm going to reflow everything, and then that'll either break it or fix it. We'll see. It hasn't worked. I was wondering when I took it off, this wire here was a bit knackered. But the resistance and everything else tests out on the motors, so I know the motors are fine. What I'm going to do is take a chance and reflow absolutely everything, top and bottom, and just hope and pray. It's knackered anyway, so I've got nothing to lose, so I've got to take it all off again, take all the motors off, take that off, and then I'm going to reflow it. I'm going to regret it, but I'm going to reflow the lot. I've got my reheat bed, which is basically 2 pieces of aluminium to try and soak the heat away from the bottom components, because I'm a bit worried about those coming off. I've wedged this up against there so that connector doesn't come off. I've still got to cover that actually, because the plastic on there may melt. I've also covered the FPC connector because I don't want that to melt. So what I'm going to do is, when you're reflowing, you need to, there's 2 stages. You've got preheat and reflow. So if you heat it up to about 180 degrees, make sure it's uniformly all heated up, and then you blast it with 240, 250 degrees, because it's lead free. That's basically what it flows at. So that's all nicely snugged down on there to stop anything, hopefully, from moving on the underside, and obviously soak the heat away. So I'm just going to cover that, and then I'm going to blast it. It'll work. Shitting out, I had to go up to 310 to actually get them to melt. It's very hard to explain how to tell when it's melting. You see slight little bubbles because there's no flux on it. I can't afford to put flux on it because it'll just set every bloody smoke alarm off in here. But really what I've just done is let these things naturally seat. Yes, I could have put flux on it, but number one, it makes a fucking mess. Number two, this is lead free. It just, my past experience is it doesn't like flux. Just heat it up and anyway, you leave it to cool down a bit, because that's going to be mighty bloody warm. So yes, it is. I'm going to let it cool down a bit, then flip it over and do the other side. I'm just going to have to go by skill on this. I'm not going to be able to, I can cover that connector a bit, but I'm not going to go anywhere near it. I'm going to aim the direction of air this way. I'm going to preheat to 180 and then I'm going to blast it to about 300, 320. The reason being is on the other side we've got that processor that's sticking out, so I can't stick it down to anything. I've got to be very quick in the heat that I actually give it, because otherwise it will start pulling the stuff off the other side. So what I'm going to do literally is preheat to about 180, 190, and then I'm going to have to go up to about 300 to actually just blast these things and hope they survive. There's nothing to lose anyway. They're knackered, or something's knackered on it. It's either a bad connection or it's just knackered. Well, that took a lot. That was about, I had to heat it to 380. But everything on there's flowed now, I hope anyway. If that doesn't work, I really don't know. It's going to be completely toast, unfortunately. So I'm going to let it cool down, and then I'm going to put it back on, and it will work perfectly. If not, it's a new board, unfortunately. Here we have a Mavic Mini. Was it? Yes, the original one. I have actually taken this apart already to try and find the problem. I've reflowed the ESC on the back. I've basically taken it all off, all the wires, blah blah blah, and then heated it up till the melting point and tried it. It's made no difference. So I had to order, oh, this isn't mine by the way, this is Jeff's. I had to order another ESC, and I'm hoping and praying that this is the right one and the same one. Now I also, because there is a possibility that the connector's gone faulty because of the vibration, I ordered the connector as well. This was about 35 quid I think. I'm going to clean it up and we're going to fit it and everything's going to be perfect. Well, that's all that's involved in doing that, is literally just taking the old one out, putting the new one in. If you take these things apart, it's not easy taking the shell off. There are videos online. I'll put a link to the one that I followed. It's a bit of a, what do you call it, a bottle job when you're actually pulling the, do it right Tony, when you're actually pulling the casing apart. You think you're going to snap it, but it doesn't snap. These casings are very, very durable, and even if you do break the tabs off, it doesn't really matter. There's loads of meat for it to actually grab hold of. So I'm going to plug it in, and we're going to see if that error's still there. Oh, you fucking joking. This might update the ESC, I don't know. I'm going to try again. I've had to charge this up because it was flat. No firmware, which is already downloaded. Install. Right, we've done that. Now I've checked the motors, I've checked the resistance on all the windings and everything. Everything is perfectly fine. So there is no reason why it doesn't work, or it shouldn't work. Still the power system error. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to change the ribbon. That may be the problem. Right, I've done the ribbon. There is a bit of a problem with taking it off. It's not very easy because of that rubber, the adhesive piece, but what I'll do is I'll test it and then I'll take it off and I'll put that adhesive piece back on again. I just need to know if it works. So, see, it's pulsing the motors, so I know that works. Power system error. Well, what else can it be? Everything is up to date. I've tried wiping it. I've reinstalled the firmware. It pulses the motors. Right, the only option I've got now is I've got to take the motors out and check the wires physically. I have actually, like I say, I've metered the wires out. I'm going to meter the wires again. If I turn this on, I'll let them settle wherever they are. Right, now I know they're in an actual seating position. So what I'll do is I'll turn it off again. We'll go on the top left one and we'll have a look to see where it moves. Right, so that one moves anti-clockwise, which is the opposite way that it should actually move. These should turn, that one should turn clockwise. We'll turn it off. This one naturally should turn anti-clockwise. Now, if that is the same as that, that should turn clockwise when it fires up. I'll get that straight. Which it does, and it stays there, the same as that one. So we'll turn it off again. Now this back one is in a natural seating position now. So we'll fire it up again. And that one turns clockwise and it stays there. So we'll turn it off again. And we'll look at this one, which is obviously the last one. So this should turn anti-clockwise and stay there. And it doesn't. So I reckon the problem is with this motor. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull the battery and I'm going to take this motor off, along with the arm and probably everything else. And I'm going to regret it. Well, that was quick. It's the day after. There's the new motor, which isn't a new motor. It's actually a second-hand motor. It was listed as second-hand, but he said it's been tested in a Mavic Mini, so I can only make assumptions that it works. Here's the original one, which I'm going to keep completely separate, but if I've got this right the first time, off a very, very slight sort of hunch, I suppose, I'll eat my own testicles, but I have to have salt on them. No, not salt. I'll have to have sauce on them if I do. Right, soldering iron on. Here we go. With these things, if you've got a broken arm, fair enough, you have to buy the whole arm, but if you've got a faulty motor, you don't have to buy a specific one. I've seen people listing these front ones more expensive than the back ones, because the front ones are the ones who usually take the brunt sort of thing. But just for the motor, literally like this is, I think this is the front one, and it doesn't matter. They just don't matter. You can buy any motor you want. It's a hunch. I'm going to try it. Oh my god! Ha! It's fixed it. It has fixed it. Ha ha ha! Okay, I've just got the massive job finding all the screws, putting it all back together and testing it. I'm going to do a test at this stage. I'll put the battery in and we should get the tone out of it. After turning it on. Hey! Okay, I'm going to fire this up. I'm going to plug that in there. We'll turn that on. We'll get this thing. We'll put a battery in it, double click. Ha-ho! Connect. Take off with caution, no GPS. So, I'm going to spin the motors. Hey! Shall I take off? No. Right, I'm going to put it on the floor and I'm going to try it. It's working perfectly, everything's done, so it just goes to show that that error is not always the ESC, as everybody says. It could be one of the motors faulty, as it is in this one. I need to clean it. So, I hope it's a lesson for people that things aren't exactly what they seem, I suppose.